Dear friends, so it is the second talk about nucleus. I think we ended up in the point that its structure will be one or another form of cooperative. A few more words about this particular cooperatives, because there's so many of them. From the legal point of view, every member will have an equal share, so to speak, in it. And that is basically the only important rule. If a member leaves the nucleus, leaves this cooperative, it loses its share. Though if it, of course, invested some money into this nucleus, the money are returned with average interest. So it is, from that point of view, fairly safe. Okay, what this cooperative will do is many things, but one is very important. As I mentioned in vision, the nucleus is supposed to be as self-sufficient as possible. And one of the things which we need to live, one of the most important, well, the most important is probably breathing air, but that's for free. We don't, well, so far, water, which is not for free, but still relatively available. Well, we don't know what will happen in the future. So the nucleus should be prepared for such eventuality that there will be no water. We'll have to have some reservoir for drinking water and other well, or what is all the precautions necessary. So may not use them, but they should be there. The next thing after air and water is food. That is, again, we can't eat without food for too long. Simply our body needs it and we would die. Consequently, every nucleus is capable and producing sufficient amount of food to feed all the members. Apparently, if you do it intelligently, and after all, we are talking about wisdom society, so intelligence is part of wisdom, and resourcefulness as well, they will find out how to do it with minimal amount of necessary expenses, which are mainly related to purchasing the land, and because the labor is for free, that's done by members of the nucleus, so as little as possible. I did a very, very precise calculation and came to completely surprising results, which I will present later on when I will talk about it, that not that much land is needed to feed it. But there is something more to production of food, meaning agriculture. It is agriculture, as we well know, we as a society and archaeologists, which are incredibly interested, arose around 10,000 years ago, and it was absolutely turning point in human society. It could be turning for the better or turning for the worst. It was turning for both, because thanks to agriculture, humans, early hunters-gatherers could settle down, start building houses, start doing many, many things like producing ceramics, melting metals was a really, and of course have food, stable food. They were not sentenced to chase the animals or look for roots and berries and things like that. So since 10,000 years, for a long time, humanity was deeply personally involved in agriculture. And it was going for a long, long time. Majority of humanity, about which we don't talk very much. We talk about great leaders, great warriors, great this, great that, great cruelers, etc. We don't talk about these lowly peasants. But humanity and human consciousness was comprising of the lowly peasants, and we carry this, if not the physical genes, so maybe we do. Our genetics is just started to develop. It's about 100 years old only, so we shouldn't expect too much from it. It does extremely good things. But what I'm trying to say, we have it in social consciousness, connection with Earth, with working on the Earth. And it's extremely important because people don't like it. I remember I talked with a very educated lady who was expert from happiness, and our conversation went incredibly beautifully. We just were, how do you say, soul friends, until I talk about working on the Earth. And she said, with the great offense, so you are suggesting me to fiddle with dirt? I said, and that our communication broke. It's considered very something lowly. That's a brainwashing for which is the wisdom training to get rid of. Anyway, enough about the dirt. This society will have to be so in case there will be a major environmental or social catastrophe, it can survive and even help others, because may produce more than it can consume. Okay. Now, it will do, of course, not only working in the dirt. It will be very technologically oriented. So, for example, will be used so-called agriculture will be done in a protective environment, which at that point is called greenhouses. It's a glass or plastic covered space, which completely eliminate problem of invading insects, most of the diseases, because you could filter the air which is coming, and of course uses extremely little water. And what is most important, it could at least 2 or perhaps with a little help of genetic engineering, 3 crops a year. So that's why it will use very little land. It will be, and the food will be, of course, as healthy as possible. For example, for fertilizers, instead of using animal fertilizer, which is allowed by biofood, which could be poisoned more than produced by chemical factories, will use only fertilizers made of plants. And the idea is alfalfa, which is a natural growing fertilizer, which fertilizes the soil on which it grows. And of course, if you cut it and compost it, it makes a fertilizer for other plants. Generally, it's up to individual nucleus, but I don't think that wise people want to kill animals. It's kind of unpleasant. We are not hunters-gatherers. We do not have, thanks to agriculture, have to kill animals. We do it just for our pleasure. And that is not necessary, because obviously we can have a perfect diet on plants, but we could even keep certain animals as long as we don't kill them. For example, we could have chicken, which produce excellent protein and fat in form of eggs. We don't need to kill them. They can die peacefully of old age, so to speak. If we know how to deal with not producing extra mail, we could have goats and sheep. Cows are very ecologically unfriendly, so rather no cow. But it's not up to me, it's up to the people who will form the nucleus. Okay, so that ends agriculture. Now is the subject very important. What will be the size of nucleus? I mentioned that the size will be modeled on the size of the groups which were for hundreds, thousands of years used, which were around between 20 and 30 people, and they are continued in the indigenous community. And it is not an accident. It's not an accident from many points of view, because people who are together, if they are able to quiet their minds, for which we are having this wisdom training, but before people were able to quiet their minds by other techniques, a group of people with quiet minds emerges something which was called group intelligence, which is well known not only about human but also animals. It was researched for in the case of problem solving. I even remember my old days when I was a professor and researcher on artificial intelligence. There were attempts to simulate the group intelligence about the robots, which was pretty silly idea. Anyway, group intelligence is not my invention. It's well known, completely not researched, but it's known, and hopefully it will be researched. Anyway, within this size of group, it's very conducive for the emergence of wisdom group collective wisdom or intelligence. I think I have to end, because I don't yet know how to make longer talks than 15 minutes, and it's 14:36. So see you soon. Goodbye.